I think over time, goalkeeper coaches have said these things, and I think they've done more harm than good. So let's just dive into it. I mean, the first one, it's full transparency. I play goalkeeping in a different era where you didn't necessarily have to be, quote, like good with your feet, which is a very like ambiguous term, quote, good with your feet. And I still ask that to goalkeepers today. Like, I was speaking with a pro goalkeeper the other day, and I said, well, what does good with your feet mean? Because your coach says that, and I don't know what that means, because their definition and my definition are completely different. And
Right.
and she was like, be able to execute range of pass and blah blah. I'm like, yes, that's part of it, being able to execute a range of pass. And just because you can hit the piss out of the ball doesn't mean you're good with your feet. It just means that you can hit it far. So let's talk about how you solve pressure, right? So anyway, being good with your feet, quote, good with your feet, to me just means being able to solve pressure and manipulate blocks to be able to create high value passes, right? So that is one thing. I did not do that well. I was not, quote, good with my feet in any definition and the standard, right? And so for me, when I became a coach, that became like my number one thing, is like, I want to understand the mental game and I want to understand the in possession, because it was so difficult for me. But why is it so difficult? And I think what I was always told is you need to know where you're going to go before you receive the ball. And you know what that did to me? It forced me that if I didn't see an immediate option, I would just kick it as long as I could, and sometimes into really bad positions and to really bad situations. And it came back to bite me time and time again, because I first didn't even know what I was looking for. I didn't know what scanning was, didn't know that I could take a touch into space to solve pressure. And I realize now, like, wow, that was really detrimental to my development, because I didn't always have an immediate option. But because I just went long every time, that put our team under more duress at times. And so you don't need to know where you're going to deliver the ball. This is the misconception. I don't need to know where I'm going to deliver the ball before I receive it, always. But I do need to know where I'm going to go with it. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're getting pressed from your left side, I need to know I'm going to take my touch into space, even if I don't have an option available to me at that point. Because once that ball comes into me and I take my touch into space, by the time I get my head up, I could have an option. And by the time that I've taken that touch to escape pressure to find someone could become available. Someone could not become available. And I would still retain my ability to play a longer pass into a safe area of the field where we maybe have a numerical or dynamic advantage, a technical advantage. And that's much better to me than just lumping it up in a 50-50, quite often more 70-30 against us situation. And so you don't, as a goalkeeper, need to know where you're going to deliver the ball before you receive, but you need to know where you're going to go. Am I going to move into space? Am I going to ask into space? Am I going to touch into space? I'm going to solve that initial bit of pressure if I'm not being pressed from both sides and there's space to work with. And then I can also find out where I'm going to play the ball once I take that touch and escape pressure. Now, that's one thing, okay? So you hear me, you're like, yes, okay, good. I'm feeling good. I want to solve pressure. If you do not feel comfortable to touch the ball into your left foot, you are massively playing against a stacked deck. You are playing with one hand tied behind your back as a goalkeeper if you can't play with your left foot. So I beg you to spend 5 to 10 minutes, 2 to 3 days a week, just working on your instep strike with a partner, spilling the tea before training or after training. And I assure you, I promise you that you will get better, because what you do more of, you get better and more efficient at.
I like that it was alongside spilling the tea. Also, you couldn't help yourself but give a little bit of like a tip or a trick. Hey, here's what you should do if that's you. If you're listening and that's you.
I mean, Tori, we've all been there, right? Like, still, like yesterday, one of our interns is working on a left foot, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit these with my left foot too, because my left foot can always be better,
Yeah.
And just spending 5 to 10 minutes, and it's not even like arduous work. It's just intentional, deliberate work. 5-10 minutes. Like, I'm going to put that out on my calendar and I'm going to put it into this, because I want to feel more confident and I don't want to leave anything on the table, and I don't want to be limited in any way.
And you can self-organize while doing that. Like, you don't need your coach there. I can say, okay, it trailed off to the left. I probably hit it here. I popped it up and I didn't want to. I probably connected underneath. So that ability to develop self-organization skills is also, I think, imperative to being a goalkeeper at whatever your next level is.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next point. So when I was playing, I wanted to consider myself a playmaker, but I was not in any stretch or any capacity. I was okay with my feet. I could deliver any pass anywhere on my right foot, but
you could.
I didn't know. I didn't know how to get it there. I didn't because I couldn't solve pressure. And I oftentimes played it into situations where the pass looked good, but once the ball got to someone, they couldn't do anything with it, right? And I had said, I want to be a playmaker. And the goalkeeper coach I was working with is like, you're not a playmaker. We don't want you to be a playmaker. And I was like, okay, I understand that. I get that. You don't want to assume risk in possession. And we have other players on the ball who are actually good playmakers, right? But I reflected back on that and I was like, who wouldn't want 11 playmakers on the field, right? Any 11 of them could play make. And we just saw it more recently with Manny McGlynn getting an assist, right? Why can't all goalkeepers be playmakers? And I realized we could, but we aren't because we don't have the capabilities always. And so in that position, my coach was right. I wasn't a playmaker because I didn't have those capabilities. But the more competent and confident you feel in possession, I do believe that we can be playmakers and we can dictate that first wave of attack. We can get assists. We can play balls that, are between lines and are really high value and are setting us up for success, maybe higher up the pitch. And I can induce a fake transition moment by getting the opponent to step onto us into a press, and then I can bypass that press and get a 3v3 higher up the field, right? Why can't I do that? We can. We just need to have the capabilities. So misconception number 2 is that goalkeepers can't be playmakers or shouldn't be playmakers, but I think we can if we continue to develop our capabilities of solving pressure, our range of pass on both feet, our ability to scan, because that's where you earn your composure, is having the range of pass on both feet and having the knowledge of how to solve pressure, but also scanning. That you earn it by doing those combination of all those things. And I genuinely believe that everyone listening to this podcast, head coaches, DOCs, goalkeeper coaches, parents, players, would all say we want more well-rounded, competent goalkeepers in possession.
Right.
And I think we can be that if we take the time to develop those skills. Because I think.
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori Corsaro. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more.
Did you start it?
I did.
You did?
Welcome back to another episode of the Keeper Institute podcast.
I didn't even know you started.
I did. Here we are. And I did the whole intro. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. I feel like
you did
great. A role reversal? Yeah. Okay, another time. Like a full another time.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Not this time. Not this time. We're not on. We have no chemistry today.
Nothing. I haven't seen you of almost 24 hours, and now we're delayed, and it's a whole thing with Gene.
That's got to be the problem, is the lack of seeing each other, because usually we're just attached to the hip. Wait till the summer, guys. It's still spring, so schedules are crazy, but soon we will both be living at TKI.
Yep.
And I can't wait because you know what? The sun is shining, all my favorite people there, doing the things we love. You can't beat it. The internship. They're all coming here so soon.
Oh my gosh, like a month away. I'm so excited. Anyway, let's get into our topic.
Let's get into the topic.
We're excited for. Yeah. All right, Tori, I came up with this podcast idea because I was just thinking about coach education and how there needs to be more coach education in our country. But until then, what do? I just don't want to complain about it anymore. I don't want to whinge about it, which we're really trying to fill that need. We're designing our own coaching course, which we are piloting through right now within our own coachings. And we are providing feedback and we are trying to clarify our message. And I think it's been a great experiment and project for us as coaches, because I feel like it's made me a lot better coach. But anyway, I was thinking about it. Like, what would I do if I didn't have TKI? Like, what would I do if I was just a random goalkeeper coach within the world without a community? And so it really got me thinking about how the quality of our work really does matter, and the evolution as we adapt really does matter, right? And I was talking to a goalkeeper coach earlier today, and I was telling him, like, we used to have the best goalkeepers in the world here in the US, right? Like, we've had, and notoriously, we have had great shot stoppers. When you think, to Hope Solo and Brandon Scurry and, even Tim Howard, like great reactionary shot stoppers. And the problem is that the game has evolved to become more than just a shot stopper. And I think maybe our coaching hasn't evolved with that evolution of the position. And so we are still developing great shot stoppers, but we need more well-rounded, competent goalkeepers, which I think everyone would agree that we want goalkeepers that can play in a multitude of different ways, because then it adds and lends to more unpredictability. And when you're an adaptable, flexible problem solver, whatever the opponent does, you can have a solution for, or figure out a solution for. So it really got me thinking of, like, if I was a normal person out in the world without TKI community, how would I develop myself by myself? And does that resonate with you at all? Like, have you ever, you've always been part of the TKI community, but have you had any experiences with anyone who else you're like, man, it's tough because you're by yourself? And how do you develop and evolve by yourself without really people who understand the position and who are great teachers?
Yeah, I can think of a lot of people where I've had conversations with, or even not even just coaches, but like young goalkeepers, maybe at the collegiate level, that are like kind of having to quarterback their own journey because maybe they only have a part-time goalkeeper coach, or maybe they don't even have a goalkeeper coach. And, kind of thinking about that, thinking about, okay, well, what do you do? Where do you go? Who do you turn to when you need that assistance and guidance?
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why we started the coaching college, is because we want to help people who are transitioning from the college space as a player to then be a coach, because it's a lot different to just understand how to play it and then understand how to teach it. And I think for us, like, that's what we do well. We have a great ability to educate people on the position and the principles of the position, but I think we're also really good educators. But I digress. Let's talk about how you can develop yourself if you don't have a community of goalkeeper coaches. So we broke this down, Tori, into before training, in training, after training, in just 3 simple ways that you can improve yourself as a coach. And we don't have all the answers, but we have some ideas how we can spark conversation about maybe some things that you want to reflect on, because the TKI community is a very different community than your club environment where you work or your college setting. And so your methods are going to be reflected based on the needs of the people that are around you, right? So hopefully we can just ask some questions and spark some conversation, or spark some introspection about how you can be a better coach. But let's start about pre-training. So pre-training, we were talking about understanding the game deeply and understanding your teaching method. So it's one thing to be an expert in goalkeeping. It's another thing to be expertly teaching goalkeeping, right? So you can understand the game deeply. I understand the principles of play. So if I can impact the ball, I can go. If not, I'm in goal defense, the transition, solving pressure, using mat. Those are understanding goalkeeping. There's another thing to understand how to teach goalkeeping. And so my opinion would be that not only do you have to watch the game and understand maybe like what are some potential outcomes or final actions that you'd want, or some positions to take up, but understanding the game and being able to break those the game down into simple bite-sized chunks, because like you want to simplify the decision-making process for goalkeepers. So understanding that, and then understanding what is your method of how you want to teach. There's no maybe right or wrong way, but you definitely want to have a method in how you teach, so that you can reflect back on that and be like, is this working for the goalkeepers I get to work with, or is it not, and I need to adjust? For us, we have our own principles. We've broken the game down into 5 tasks. We've broken those into sub-principles. And then we use something called the constraint-led approach, which simultaneously allows us to work on the final actions and the execution while also the decision-making process as well, and developing character and resilience and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think there's not much to add to that. It's you have to have an idea, right? Like, I don't know many people who are like, I'm going to become a career coach that don't have a passion and a desire or some previous knowledge of the game, right? So you have to know the game to be able to teach the game. But I think it goes beyond that, and it becomes, okay, I need to know the game well enough to teach the game. I have to know the game well enough to be able to explain the game to someone who's brand new, but also talk about it so advanced that I could help someone who maybe is a pro. So kind of just deepening your knowledge in that regard, but then take it a step further and say, I have to be able to educate people wherever they're at and meet them where they're at to help them be effective problem solvers.
Yeah, I think maybe this is one of the biggest hurdles for coaches, is that there's not a lot of time. Like, you don't have that much time to develop yourself and read and listen to podcasts. And I mean, you're listening to this, so maybe you do have time, but I think that it's really important for us to like carve out time each week to read a little bit more on a book about skill acquisition, or understand a bit more about teaching methods, and not just understanding how you would execute a front smother, but how do we lead people to discover and guide them and their attention to what's actually important and how to be able to execute these things. So for me, I listen to podcasts every week. There's Rob Gray podcast that I listen to, Transforming Basketball podcast that I listen to. There's so many podcasts on skill acquisition and talent equation. I would listen to one of those a week. I also read every single day, because I believe that, like, if I'm not evolving and adapting to be the best coach I can be, then I'm definitely not helping the goalkeepers I work with, and being the most effective coach I can be for them to be able to transfer their skills. So I'm reading a book, Transforming Basketball. I'm also reading a book by Rob Gray, How to Be an Ecological Coach. But there's also other things that you can read about, like in terms of soft skills and developing your communication ways. But something I'm learning in life is that it's not as effective to just be good at one thing. So, for example, it's not necessarily the most effective thing for me to just understand the game to the smallest minutia. I also have to be able to understand how to design a session. I also have to understand the principles of teaching. I also have to understand how many different personalities that I might have in a group, and maybe their moods, and understanding what mood meters they're at that day. Like, there's just so many different capacities of the position that we want to have a general knowledge about, so that we can serve them in those areas, right? Like, I'm not an expert on the physical side of the game, but we do have someone in our community who does help us learn. We do have someone we can ask questions to about the physical side of the game. We have some general knowledge about how goalkeepers move and how we can, produce some force out of the floor and different body shapes and stuff. But the more curious you are, the more you're going to learn, the more that you can apply that to your session and hopefully be more effective and lead your goalkeepers in a direction that's going to help them be the most effective on the field. Which leads us to number 2.
Those are tangible, by the way. Side note. Those are all tangible. So you can listen to a podcast. Like, we all probably drive somewhere, listen to a podcast over the course of a couple of days. Like, it's something you can do and you can add in. And if you don't know where to start, what a great way to start.
Yeah. Which leads us to our next one. And I think this is probably one of the more underrated abilities, but when you're in the session, so we talked about pregame or pre-session, what you can do, establishing your methods, your philosophies, understanding the game. Then when you're actually in the session, there's a certain tool or skill set that I think is really important. One is establishing a trust, like first and foremost, like setting the tone for your environment and creating and establishing that trust between you and the people that you get to work with, not your goalkeepers, the people you get to work with. That's going to be so important because it doesn't matter what you know if someone doesn't think you care about them. Right? Like they're not going to be as receptive to that information, right? Like we want to know a little bit more about how that person's day was. We want to know, does that person have a dog? Do they have a sibling? Do they like chocolate cake? Like whatever it might be, we need to figure out different ways. How can we establish trust within that relationship so that when I give feedback, someone understands that I'm not coming at you. I'm not criticizing you. We're collaborating together. We're doing something together. We're doing this work together. And I'm not doing something to you. We're doing it with each other. So establishing the trust and then observing. This is like such an underrated skill. Observing like what's happening in the session and not just thinking about what's my next thing that I'm going to do, what's my next thing I'm going to say, but actually watching the session, actually seeing what is occurring and how can I change what I'm seeing or change the exercise based on what I'm seeing. So observing, we're so quick to talk, we're so quick to tell. But if we spent more time observing and thinking about adjusting than just directly talking, I think it would better serve our athletes. Which leads me to my last one within the context of inside the session is figuring out how to be the best communicator that you can be. How clear can you be? How concise can you be? How much clarity can you give simplistically with enough ambiguity that someone can solve it on their own, right? Like we're not telling them hard, fast things that they have to do or that they should do. Maybe bring some attention to things that they could do or different ways they could solve problems. So establishing trust, observing, communicating. In our session, those are 3 things that you can do better that will probably maximize your training.
And really, for me, this all comes back to point number 1 of educating yourself on being an educator. You have to learn how to teach. You have to be a teacher of these skills. Like you're not a coach, you're a teacher. And it's about getting your lessons or your technical, tactical input across in a way that is effective. And like we talk about, how can goalkeepers be effective problem solvers? Okay, how can we as a coach be an effective problem solver? And I think focusing in on those 3 things you just gave is like some of the first steps.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got pre-training, we have during training, now post-training. Really fine-tuning your reflection. So whether that is taking notes on how the session went, taking notes on different constraints that you use within the session so that you're like, wow, that really worked and I can't wait to try that with so-and-so, or asking for feedback. I think this is sometimes a hard one, especially when we don't want to hear the answer. This was something that I faced a couple weeks ago where the session was terrible. It was a disaster. And I asked for feedback. And I knew as soon as I opened that door that it was, my ego was going to hurt, right? Like we all have an ego. And that I became a bit defensive about my session that I put on. And luckily, obviously it was with a goalkeeper that I have a really strong relationship with and a strong connection with. And so we went back and forth in a really respectful way, but it was definitely enlightening to me. And it allowed both of us to have a space to say what our needs are and for them to say, we needed more support with this. And for me to say, I was trying to support you and I chose a different way to support you. So it really was like great, because at the end of the day, I think next time that situation occurs, I can check in to be like, hey, what do you guys need right now? Instead of just kind of solving it in the way I think they need, I can say, hey, how are you guys feeling right now? And what do you need? And can we find compromise in what your needs are and what I need from this session as well? So not only did that bring some awareness around places that I could get better, but it also continue to deepen the trust between both parties to say, I hope that I created a space where the goalkeepers were like, she wants to hear what we have to say. Our voices are important and we feel safe enough to say our truths. And also we can have a conversation because ultimately it is about our development. So I think if you would sum that up in reflection, that that would typically come down to character, right? Like, am I regulated enough to hear negative feedback? Am I open to hear feedback? Am I brave to even ask goalkeepers for that feedback? And at the end of the day, am I receptive to that feedback? Am I willing to like hear it and let it sink in and allow it to make me a better coach? Which I think sometimes people are kind of shocked that we ask goalkeepers, well, all right, we debrief about their performance, but like debrief about my performance as a coach, right? And we had someone come work our camp a couple summers ago, and she was like, I can't believe you opened the door for criticism. Like you opened the door for them to criticize you. And I was like, but I don't see it as criticism. I see it as an opportunity for them to voice their opinion and allow their needs to be met, and also for me to hear them so that I can adjust and meet their needs, right? And she was like, but if you take it, and I was like, no, we're in a safe place. We have established a really good trust here. And I know that their feedback is just allowing them a voice and a narrative. And because this is about their journey, it's not about me. Right. Yeah. Do you do that with your goalkeepers?
I do that definitely more at TKI, I think, than I do at St. Joe's. And it's not necessarily because I don't want feedback. I think it just ends up being a time thing. Like we're pretty much going right from being together to being with the team. So it's a little bit less frequently asked, but that is something that I think would be interesting to get a perspective on, because they're both coming from a different training background, where when it was Katie, we had trained together for 5 years. She worked at TKI. She coached at TKI. She trained at TKI. So I think it was something that like, it was almost implicit that it was going to happen. Like give me feedback on that, where I think it's a little less now. And I think having the perspective, like maybe they've trained XYZ way and they have more opinions on something they need or want. But I do think it is an interesting question, and it takes people back, because even when you do it with a goalkeeper, like, well, did you like that or did you not like that? Is there anything you would change? A lot of times, like their immediate response is like this: no. I'm like, you answered so fast. I know you didn't think about it. I'm okay. So it's like teaching goalkeepers that is okay. But it does help, because we give them feedback. We debrief them at the end, like you said.
Right.
Why can't we get better? Like that is part of quarterbacking your development, is being able to take in and receive that criticism that might ultimately help you, or at least at the bare minimum, change your perspective on something.
And I just feel like when we open the door to say, hey, what did you think of this? Tell me what you want more of or less of. Tell me a way that felt good for you when I communicated with you, or if there was something that I can do better, right? Because ultimately, we then gain information, right? We gain information on what they need and where we can support them. Ultimately, I want to fill the gap where someone is not confident, right? So if someone says, hey, that was awesome, but I need more pressure because that's a bit more representative of what I'll see in a game. Boom, great. You're saying your need out loud. You also have thought about what you need, which is so important, right? Like we criticize goalkeepers because they don't understand the game, but we then coach them in a way that is so just prescriptive, and we tell them what to do. Where now when we do this debrief, we're opening the door for them to say, that was great, but can we add more? Can you put a penny on that person? Can you make them the defender the whole time and not only some of the time? I need this. And then they're thinking about the game. And guess what? A lot of these players that are playing want to ultimately coach. And so now they're seeing the game from a different perspective that one day will make them a better coach as well. So to me, it's just like endless possibilities for this to improve yourself, the team, the environment, the relationships, the game understanding. It's just a very, maybe could take 1 to 2 minutes long, but infinitely helpful in the end.
Yeah. And it's not like you have to ask it every time. Like you don't have to ask that every single time. Like if you work with a group consistently, like let's say you work at something where you train in the style like TKI, where you maybe see those goalkeepers once or twice a week for a group, or maybe you see one goalkeeper one time a week, a couple times a month. Like you can ask them every time, or you can ask them some of the times. It doesn't really matter. I think it's about what you're looking for out of it and how you want to help them. And I think that self-reflection doesn't have to just be that. Self-reflection can start off as just being you taking 5 minutes after your session and debriefing yourself, or you looking at your practice plan and kind of like writing some notes on how it went. Or sometimes, I know you and I both do this, we grab a whiteboard and we bring it with us, and like if we're having thoughts during it, we kind of just jot down a few and talk that over with the goalkeepers at the end, because I think that it's all of it is self-reflective, and all of it is an opportunity for you to kind of grow through what you're going through in that time.
Yeah, totally agree. You guys, it's hard. It's so hard. It's so hard to quarterback your own development. It's so hard to know what to look for and what to trust. However, if you're a coach and you're listening to this and you need support, like we really do want to support you and collaborate with you. We don't know all the answers. We're on a journey and a quest to be the most effective coaches that we can be. We are on a quest to refine our character and be role models, all of those things. And you're not alone in that. If you want to know more information about the coaching college, please reach out, because we feel really blessed that people would trust us to come here and learn about how to be a better coach. But yeah, we're super excited for our interns to get here, because that's always a good venue for us to be able to instill our methods and character into the young people of the world. And also, if you're a goalkeeper,
let's get them on the podcast.
I know. And if you're a goalkeeper and you're listening to this and you made it all the way here, maybe you're interested in coaching. Maybe you should think about that at some point. But I want to say thank you to West Coast for being our partner, our glove partner, and our goalkeeper equipment partner. They make pro level gloves for everyone with the premium material at the top of the line. They have over 100 goalkeepers all over the world that are their West Coast pros like Kalen Sheridan, who everyone at TKI knows, and Matt Turner over the US. But they have over 40 models available. There's a glove for everyone. We use them every day here. I don't wear any other glove. I have about 17 pairs that have never worn out, and I love them so much. They're so comfortable. If I was still playing, I would only wear them. And if you guys are interested in those, please shop at westcoastgoalkeeping.com. That's where we get our goalkeeper gloves. Hopefully you get them there too. Tori, end us with your question of the podcast.
Well, Jill, it only feels fitting to ask you, what's your favorite West Coast goalkeeping glove to wear?
I really like the Evil Twins, the Stephen Fry gloves. They're my favorite. I don't know. I like the look. I like the feel. They feel perfectly great on my hands without the finger savers. And they're black, and so they go with everything.
Do they have the little jellies inside?
Oh yeah, I do like those.
I love the little jellies. I'm into the Phantoms right now. Big Phantom girly. Nice and tight. They slip on. I don't know if when I was playing, if I would have worn something that slips on like that. Maybe I would have. I would have tried it. But as a coach, I think it's so nice because I can just get them on and off real easy.
There you go. My question.
Although I'm still waiting for a coaching glove, special coaching glove
with the little watch thing in the middle.
Watch hole. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, watch hole. My question to you is, what are you reading right now? Or if you're not reading anything in particular, what is a good book that you recommend?
That is a great question. What am I reading right now I think it's called Give and Take. I keep wanting to give it a different name, but it's all about like givers and takers, and how a lot of times like the people who present as like these big personalities and they become the CEOs, but ultimately like they have their demise. And then the givers are like, nice guys finish last. But through his research, he realizes that the givers actually ultimately come out on top. And look at that. Their character is impeccable and people love them.
I think I might have read that a long time ago. Is it red on the front or?
Yeah, it's a black book with like red and black writing.
Yeah, I think I've read it. This is the book that I am nonstop reading. It's called Transforming Basketball by Corsaro, and it is incredible. I feel like I can only digest a few pages at a time, so I feel like I'm constantly rereading, but things are really starting to click, and like I just am so hungry. Like I'm obsessed with learning how to learn. I'm obsessed with learning how to teach. I just think that there's so much power in understanding that. And I always go back to my son is in pre-K and he has a teacher who has her master's or doctorate in something or other. And my son is 4. He's literally learning about sentence structure of like how many words are in each sentence and what a comma means. And like, I'm sure she would have known that in 6th grade, but she went to college to get her MBA or not MBA, master's or PhD, to understand how to teach people. And I think there's so much value in that. So hopefully you guys enjoy this book. It's about basketball, but it is about principles of session design and how we learn. And there's a lot of good crossovers. Enjoy.
We love a good crossover.
We do. And you know what else we love, Tori? We love Select Camp. So you guys, we have Select Camp for 3 of them, end of June and 2 in July. We would love to see you there. We have them for just high schoolers and just youth players. Tori is one of our directors, which we are going to announce soon. So if you guys are free and you've made it this far in the podcast still as a player, please join us because you're a fan of TKI and we're a fan of you. And TKI
exactly.
And goalkeepers love TKI.
They do. I heard it on the news. Yeah. All right, you guys. This one's been fun. It's been real. We didn't even give you, what's happening behind me, but like, look at this glow up I've had.
I know it is a glow up,
literally. But if you got any questions, you know where to find us. If you have any podcast topics, again, shoot us an email, send us a DM on Instagram. We want to serve you. We want to talk about what you want us to talk about. But for now, we'll catch you later.
Catch you later.